Crimson Moon is a roguelite action RPG that features some permanent progression systems as well as a Souls-like combat. So this game has actually had my attention ever since I saw the first couple of trailers for it because it featured a banging metal soundtrack and a medieval knight chopping down monsters and brutally executing them with some really cool looking animations. So that's pretty much all you really need to get my attention, so I've had my eye on it for quite some time, and a couple of weeks ago, Probably Monsters invited me to go ahead and check it out firsthand. So I was able to play a little bit of it, and that is some of the gameplay that you guys are going to be watching throughout this video. Now, do keep in mind that this is still a very early version of the game, as the game is only going to be releasing on the 1st of September, so there's still some polishing up to do. There's still a couple of things that we're going to be talking about throughout the video that they should be improving before then, but it was enough for me to get an overall vibe of what to expect from the gameplay loop for Crimson Moon. And I already know that when I talk about a roguelite game that features some permanent progression systems, a lot of you guys are going to be asking, okay, what are the permanent progression systems? What do you get to keep between runs? And I'm sorry to say that it is a little bit confusing due to the nature of like the still kind of early UI. I wasn't really able to tell exactly what you get between runs, but one of the things that I can assure you is your character has a permanent level up system, so you are going to constantly be gaining, the more you play, even if you fail like a run, you're still going to be getting some bonuses if you're able to level up. You're going to be getting HP, you're going to be getting permanent stamina, permanent mana, upgrades, all that stuff. You're going to be unlocking new weapons at the blacksmith that you're going to be able to buy with the currency that you get from doing these different runs. You're going to be able to get certain upgrades at the blacksmith, and this was the part that I was a little bit confused because unfortunately 2 hours is a very limited amount of time to really test everything out. But it seemed to me like the way that this works is as you are killing enemies in the, when you are doing the gameplay each run, as you are killing enemies, some of them are going to drop weapons. And it seems to me that some of the upgrades that you do at the blacksmith means that when enemies drop those weapons, you're going to be able to get the upgraded version that you upgrade at the blacksmith after you get that upgrade done. So for instance, say the first time that you run through an enemy, you pick up this one-handed hammer, and it's like a normal one-handed hammer, nothing special about it. Then you unlock an upgrade at the smithy. Next time you're going through the game and an enemy drops that same hammer, that hammer is going to be upgraded, it's going to deal more damage, so on and so forth. That seems to be the way things work, but that's not all. Because like I said, you're also able to buy certain weapons from the blacksmith so that you start each run with those weapons. But also, I permanently unlocked some of the weapons as I was playing through the game. So for instance, I was using a lot of the one-handed hammer. I'm not sure if that was related, but after I finished my last run and I was about to start another one before I ran out of time, I actually had the option of just straight up starting the run with the one-handed hammer. But I'm not exactly sure how that unlocked, but it just gives you an idea that, you're going to be unlocking multiple weapons and multiple things as you play through these different runs. Another thing that you're going to be unlocking is different special powers for your character, which we're going to be talking about those a little bit more in depth. And you're also going to be unlocking different Nephilim forms. So your character is a Nephilim, so like the cross between, I forget if it's a human and an angel or an angel and a demon or whatever. But you guys know, usual Nephilim lore type of stuff. If you've played Diablo, you'll be somewhat familiar with these things. And because of that, you're going to be able to take on like this special angel form from time to time, which I just almost call a Spartan Rage, because it's kind of like Spartan Rage and God of War. You basically press down on both analog sticks and your character like transforms into a big angel, and you're almost immortal while you're in angel form. So it's a really good defensive move that you get to do from time to time, and basically the better you do at combat, the more you get for that specific gauge. So you're going to have like special abilities, you're going to have like your angelic form, you're going to have weapons, equipment, armor, consumables, like even throwables. You're going to have healing potions, and you can pick up all of these things while you are killing different enemies. There's a chance that they will drop it. And some of those things you'll then be able to acquire in between runs from these NPCs that are sitting at the quest hub that you are getting. There's also bounties that you get to do for additional rewards, as well as certain NPCs will give you specific quests that you'll be able to complete throughout the multiple runs that you do throughout each of the districts. I forget exactly how many districts there are going to be. I think that there's been an FAQ from some developers that they said there's like 7 different districts. The districts are handcrafted. These are not procedurally generated levels, but even though the districts themselves are handcrafted, the placement of enemies, the loot that you're going to be finding, the different power-ups, because this being a roguelike, after a certain amount of time, you're also going to be getting specific power-ups, so things like you're going to deal more fire damage, or some of your special attacks are able to actually cause fire damage. You'll be able to get special abilities that deal ice damage, and ice damage does freeze enemies. You're going to be able to get stuff that makes your character become enraged, which causes it to deal more damage, so on and so forth. There's also spells that you're able to do. There's tons and tons of stuff to really explore from what I've seen so far. And there's a decent chunk of replayability here due to the roguelike nature of the game. But like I said, for those of you that are like, well, I don't want to be losing all of my stuff after every run, there are permanent progression systems, and your character, from what I can tell in my brief time with the game, is constantly getting stronger. Like, my character felt significantly stronger. I did like 3 or 4 runs or something like that, and my character was feeling significantly stronger between each of the runs. Now, naturally, there's also going to be escalating difficulty that you're going to be able to engage in. The game also features co-op, 2-player co-op, and it also has crossplay between all the platforms that's going to be launching on, which I think is the usual stuff, like all the stores on PC, as well as PlayStation, and I think Xbox, pretty sure. But yeah, you're going to be able to do all of those things. You're going to be getting all of that progression in between runs. Those are the things that I can remember from what I've played in that session. And like I said, some of the things do permanently unlock, but I wasn't able to exactly ascertain what was causing them to permanently unlock because I was just focused on getting footage and trying to figure out how combat works and all of that stuff. So now let's talk about the combat, which is something that was actually surprising for me, because initially I expected the pacing of this game to be more akin to something like Doom. So I was expecting more fast-paced action because of the energy that they were bringing to the trailer. But that is not the case. And that is not the case, and to me that is actually a good thing. It just depends on what the expectation is that you had for the game. But the pacing is much more like a Souls game. This is going to feel very similar to a Souls game. The difference is you're going to have like your 2 special attacks, you're going to have like your angelic form that I talked about earlier, and you're going to have the roguelite buffs from each run that you're going to be getting, which is going to give you all of these power-ups as you are going through each of the runs. But in terms of the actual pacing and the rhythm of the fighting, it feels a lot more similar to Souls, particularly early on before you start getting like the really crazy power-ups and you start changing up the way that your character plays and all that. So, you know, you have your blocking on the left bumper, you have your attacking on the right bumper, you have like your special abilities on the right trigger, then you have the parry on the left trigger, and there's a couple of more things to it, but that's kind of like your basis. You also have like the traditional D-pad item usage type of stuff. If you press D-pad up, that also swaps to your weapon. There's 2-handed weapons in here as well, even though gameplay footage you're going to be watching is just going to be sword and shield, because you guys know me. If something has a shield, I want to be using the thing that has the shield, because that's my thing. I like shields. So mostly I focused on doing sword and board, and also felt very satisfying because there was this special attack that you get, which is kind of like a shield charge. Whenever games have shield attacks, that's my thing. So I'm hoping that there's even more shield attacks, but so far I've only really seen the shield charge. The parry window felt generous enough to the point where it's not, no, it needs to be like pixel perfect, especially if you take into consideration that I was playing the game through a software called Parsec, which is essentially like a remote PC connection, and I was still able to somewhat reliably parry enemies if I was able to identify their their moveset efficiently. And you guys know me, I'm not the best one at doing parries, so if I was able to do it through Parsec, probably all of you parry pros will be able to just parry the world as you see fit, which is quite satisfying as well. There's different types of consumables you're going to be able to get. But yeah, you have a stamina system, just like Souls. When you block, you consume stamina. When you dodge, you consume stamina. You have parries, you have attacks. There's also backstabs. Yes, you can go up behind an enemy that you are fighting, do a backstab, kind of just like Dark Souls 1, but from what I could tell, not every single enemy can be backstabbed. Like, you guys will see that there's a variety of enemies that I'm fighting throughout this, and, you know, some of the bigger, thicker enemies, you guys will notice those can't be backstabbed. Even some of the lanky ones, you can't really backstab those, but usually the rank and father ones, you'll be able to just get in there, do your backstabs, do your thing. The game also has a jump button, and I'm just bringing this up because there's a lot of times where Souls-likes will not have jump buttons. The game does have some verticality to it, but in the levels that I was playing, I don't know how, let's say, I don't know how relevant the jump was, but you could jump like over small ledges, stuff like that. So sometimes you could maybe get away from certain monsters and whatnot that way. But yeah, there is that. Now, the very important thing, the game does feature animation commitment combats. You're not going to be dodge canceling out of everything, which is something that I personally really enjoy. I like heavy animation commitment. That is my jam. It's like you overcommit to something, you're going to get punished. That is the way that I like to play because it just feels more satisfying. But do keep that in mind, that that is kind of how this game works. You have that animation commitment to it. The level design overall felt very satisfying. But then again, I was only exposed to one of the districts that the game has, and I was only exposed to like the very first mission that you get to do on that district, which is difficulty 2. The difficulty itself is also going to escalate, and it's also dynamic difficulty based on whether you are playing solo or you're playing with a friend. The game also has a live system, so you have a life pool, so whenever you are doing a run, dying doesn't instantly end the run. So if you make like a silly mistake, you still have a couple of more chances to make up for it. And as you progress, you're going to gain additional lives for your next couple of runs. So do keep that in mind. If you are playing in co-op, the other player will be able to resurrect you before you guys lose a life. We didn't really get to test the co-op version of the game, but that is likely something that I'm going to be doing once the game releases, because it just seems like it's going to be one hell of a fun time. So those are kind of like the gameplay mechanics that I consider to be some of the most important things. As you slash up enemies, you'll see me do these crazy finishing animations and stuff like that. Usually whenever you beat up an enemy, you'll have there's a window open after you kill them where you go in and you just like press your normal attack button for the more important enemies, and you'll do a special finishing animation. Those are very satisfying, particularly when it's the dudes with the big swords, dudes with you know, big two-hander weapons. That's all really cool. Now, in terms of diversity of builds, as you can imagine, in 2 hours, there's only so much I can experiment with. Like I told you, I saw frost attacks that would freeze enemies. I saw shield charges. I saw stuff that would buff when you had rage on your character. I saw tons of stuff that you can do, but the one that I found to be the most efficient, the run where I got the furthest, was basically using a dot build. So the way that I had this set up was I was able to get a power-up, or maybe it was even in my sword, I forget, because there's some of the stuff you can get through power-ups, others you can get through passive effects on your weapons, but I had this power-up where if I did a charge attack, a charged heavy attack with my sword, that would set the enemies on fire. If I did light attacks with my sword, that would poison the enemies, and then later on, I was able to get a special ability that straight up gave me this poison aura. So the whole point of the build was for me to poison and then set enemies on fire and then just let them die. And the reason I was playing like this is because it seemed to me like I was going to need more runs in order to really be properly beefed up with all of the power-ups and all of that stuff to be able to reach the final boss of this thing more efficiently. And I just decided, well, since that's going to just take too long, I'm just going to dot everything. And it was a really fun playstyle. I thought it was really chill. I was just walking up to enemies, poisoning them, doing flaming attacks on them and all of this stuff, and then they would be poisoned and on fire and just taking massive amounts of dot damage, and it felt very efficient. Like I said, it was a playstyle among other playstyles that I could have chosen. I'm sure that more people were able to play this particular version of the game, and you're probably going to be seeing a lot of videos go up today, so I'd recommend checking out those to see what other strategies people came up with. But yeah, what I called the Warlock special of just applying dots to everything felt very, very efficient. In terms of healing items, they do refresh your potions from time to time, and sometimes enemies straight up drop potions while you are doing the same run, which is good because I like when you are able to kind of like recover some of your healing items so that it doesn't feel like, oh, I ran out of healing items. Guess that's that. Guess it's over. But yeah, exploring the different levels felt good. Going through doing the combat also felt good. I mean, like I said, it feels very much like Souls combat, except with a couple of additional special abilities. Like, you know, when in a Souls game you get one of those weapons that has like a special move or something like that. It's kind of that vibe, but pretty much from the moment that you pick up your first magic weapon or something of that nature. But really fun. Really enjoyed it. One of the things that was a bit of a turnoff in this version of the game is because I expected more from the soundtrack, but I was told by everybody that is working on the game that like the soundtrack is something that is still being fine-tuned, so that what I've seen here is not even close to being done. So to keep that in mind, I was like, okay, so you guys are still wrapping up the stuff that we've heard in those trailers will eventually come to fruition, which is cool. But another thing that I thought was interesting is that very early in the game, when I was paying attention to all that, before I started focusing exclusively on gameplay and all of that stuff, I actually got a little bit of Diablo vibes in the very beginning of the game, and I was like, oh, that was really cool. But it was just like a hint, just like a smidgen, and then I just started focusing on other stuff, so I'm not exactly sure if that endured throughout the rest of it. But I'm confident that particularly for the boss fights, we're going to be getting quite the treat. But yeah, we'll have to see how all of that stuff goes. Beyond that, one of the things that I really liked is obviously the art style. For those of you that know me, you guys know that I like this kind of chunky medieval type of art style. I think it looks really good. I thought the animations also are pretty good, particularly the visceral executions that you get to do whenever you get an enemy down on his knees and you just go over, you finish it. Those feel very nice and very impactful, so that's cool. Combat definitely has some weight to it because it has animation commitment, all of that stuff. I definitely enjoyed it, and again, this was when I was playing through Parsec, so there was a little bit of added latency there. It still felt very responsive. It felt very good. So, you know, still needs a little bit more polishing. Particularly, I was looking at some of the gameplay and I noticed that I'm like going through and trying to pick up different items and whatnot because enemies drop the loot in the ground. Then you have to like look at the stats and all of that stuff. I feel like maybe they can give you a couple of arrows just to show you, okay, so this one is better at this than the stuff that you have equipped. Maybe you have like a quick equip button, so on and so forth. I still feel like there's a little bit of improvements to potentially be done with the looting. Things like, for instance, gold should be automatically picked up. This is a suggestion that I gave to the team when I was done playing. Because I don't, you know, you always want to pick up gold. Why wouldn't you want to pick up gold? So the character, it's not an active decision the player's having to do. You just have to press a button for the sake of pressing a button. Gold should be auto pickup. And if it's not auto pickup because of like co-op, which I don't know because like I said, I didn't get to test co-op, then it should be automatically split between the players because you definitely don't want to get into a loot goblin situation where both players are trying to figure out, you know, oh, I was faster than you at clicking the gold, so I get all the gold. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? But yeah, the art style is good. The visuals are good. The animations are good. The soundtrack, I can't wait to see what it's like when they actually start implementing the soundtrack properly because, like I said, I have high expectations for the soundtrack based on the trailers and all of that good stuff. But for now, it's decent enough, but I really expect more of that. The sound effects themselves are good. One of the things that I liked is I was slashing enemies up, then I picked up a hammer, which is also still for the one-handed weapon and shield. And the hammer impacts were very different from sword impacts, so that is also very good. So I enjoyed it. It looks like it's going to be one hell of a good time. It's coming out September 1st. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below, and I'll be reporting more on this as we gain access to the final version, as embargo lifts and all of those good things. I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date on it as much as I can. So make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all of that jazz, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.